I still remember the night everything started going haywire in my head. It was a small party my friends held to welcome my sister back after a long stay in Florida with her boyfriend. They broke up and she decided to return to the north. I was looking forward to seeing her again because she usually kept her distance and rarely texted or called. That evening, my fiancé and I arrived a little late, but we still happily attended. I was mainly excited to reconnect with my sister. She was the first person I confided in when I was struggling with my identity in high school. Everything happened normally. A few glasses of wine were poured, food was ordered, laughter echoed throughout the room. But when it got dark and people started getting drunk, I felt tired. Planning the wedding was draining my energy, so my fiancé and I decided to leave early. On my way out, I walked past the bedroom to the bathroom. At that time, I heard crying. I immediately realized it was my sister, sobbing in someone's arms. Instinctively, I was about to step in to comfort her, but then I heard my fiancé's name, and my feet stopped. I knew I shouldn't eavesdrop. I even told myself how stupid I was. But I was a little drunk, and curiosity got the best of me. Through sobs, I heard her say that seeing my fiancé made everything more real. She cried about not being able to deny her feelings anymore, especially since he was about to marry me. But what made my heart ache was when she said she just wanted him to pay attention to her too. I stood there, dumbfounded for a few seconds, before quietly leaving. I didn't tell anyone, not even my fiancé, about what I heard. In my head, everything was spinning. My sister had always been friendly with my fiancé, even more so. They knew each other from before, since we were high school sweethearts. She was the first person I came out to when I was still figuring myself out, and she always supported me. At the party, she even greeted him warmly and chatted happily about a common interest. To me, she also didn't seem distant. But now, those words keep echoing in my head. Part of me wanted to blame the alcohol. Maybe she wasn't serious. She had never shown any such signs before. But another part of me knew I couldn't just pretend I hadn't heard anything. I wanted to face her, ask her directly what she meant, but I was afraid. My family had just returned to peace after she returned, and I didn't want to ruin everything. That party was a week ago, and every time she texts or calls, asking about the wedding or just to chat, I feel sick. I knew I needed to do something, but I didn't know where to start. I was afraid of causing a big scene, afraid of hurting her, afraid of causing a rift in the family. I'm wondering if anyone has ever been in a situation like this. And I really need advice. The next day, when my fiancé came home from work, I decided to tell him everything. I was trembling and speaking incoherently, but he listened. He was equally confused, even more so than me, because he had encountered a similar situation at work. My fiancé is gay, and I have never doubted his fidelity, which is why I'm not too worried about him in this matter. What gives me a headache is my sister. We wanted her to be at the wedding party, but now that idea is scary. We both agreed that we needed to talk to her to clarify things. We made plans to meet her at a park. Initially, it was just me, but my fiancé wanted to stay nearby in the car to assist if needed. Yesterday, I texted her and we met. The conversation started out light, just the usual questions, but then I worked up the courage to mention what I'd heard at the party. I tried to speak gently, not accusing, just wanting to understand. But what she replied made me collapse. She launched into a long rant, full of opinions I didn't expect. Right-wing rants about not understanding why my fiancé chose a confused girl like me over someone like her. She admitted that it was true that she had feelings for him because she thought he deserved someone better than me. I'm transgender, something I didn't think needed mentioning before because I didn't find it relevant. But now, it became the focus of her words. I can't say much. When I realized what she was thinking, I just said I was done, then left. I can't believe it. My sister, who once supported me, was my support, has now changed so much. She even admitted that she herself was confused, but that didn't make it any less painful for me. I grew up with her, and now I no longer recognize this person. When I got back to the car, I was a mess. My fiancé hugged me, and we just sat there for a while. My sister is currently living with my parents while looking for a job in a new area, and she recounted the conversation to them. My parents didn't want to get involved. I understand that, because they always stay away from family drama. I tried texting her, telling her to stop bothering them, but she blocked me. My fiancé wanted to cut her out of the wedding altogether, And I agreed, even though my heart was still heavy. I rely on him a lot right now, but I still don't know what to do next. Update. Hello, everyone, again. First, I want to thank everyone who responded. I really didn't expect to receive so much advice. I'd probably have panicked and suppressed this if you all hadn't helped. Unfortunately, it's still bad, but I'm glad I listened to you guys. Also, to clarify a few things I see people confused about in the comments section. My fiancé is gay, and I have never doubted his fidelity, which is why I barely mentioned him in the original post. I was mainly worried about my sister because we'd wanted her in the wedding party, so it was scary to hear she had a crush on my fiancé. With that, I know many of you have said to just let things be, but for the above reasons along with my personal beliefs, I really don't want to let things settle. Anyway, I decided to talk to my fiancé the day after I posted online, the day I felt like everything needed to be put on the table. He came home from work, walked into the house looking tired after a long day, and we sat down on the sofa after settling down with 2 cups of hot tea. I didn't know where to start, so I just let it all flow out like a flood. I told the whole story. From the night at the party, my sister's cries in the bedroom, the things she said about him, and the fear that was gnawing at me every day. I vomited to him, as I often do when stressed, but this time I tried to remember the advice I'd read from kind strangers online. I wanted to keep my voice calm, but sometimes it still shook and I had to stop to breathe. He sat there, listening to me with eyes wide open in surprise. When I finished, he leaned back on the sofa and rubbed his forehead as if trying to process everything he had just heard. He was just as confused as I was, maybe a little more, since he had been in a similar situation at work a few years ago. He told me, his voice a little hesitant, about a colleague who once misunderstood his feelings and caused a lot of trouble in the work group. But this time, it was different. This was not a colleague, but my sister, whom we both knew for a long time. He held my hand, squeezed it gently, and said he didn't expect things to go this far. We sat in silence for a while, listening only to the ticking of the wall clock, before he nodded and said that we both needed to face her. Not to accuse, but to clarify things, to understand what she's really thinking. We spent that evening planning. I wanted to meet her alone first, to keep things light and not turn it into a tense confrontation. But my fiancé insisted that he wanted to be nearby, not to immediately intervene, but to support me if things got too much. In the end, we chose a park near our house, a neutral, quiet place, with tall trees and a few scattered wooden benches. The idea was that I would meet her there, sit down and talk like 2 sisters, while he waited in the car, a few hundred meters away, close enough for me to feel secure, but not to make her feel threatened. Yesterday, I mustered up the courage to text her. I kept my tone normal, just asked if she was free to meet for a while, saying I wanted to talk about something. She agreed immediately, and I felt both relieved and more nervous. When I got to the park, it was a bit chilly, and I saw her already sitting there on a bench, holding a paper cup of coffee. We greeted each other, smiled awkwardly, and started talking. At first, it was just idle questions about work and how she was gradually stabilizing life here. I tried to keep the atmosphere comfortable, but inside, I felt like there was a bomb counting down. After a while, I took a deep breath and decided to get straight to the point. I gently mentioned the reunion party, saying that I accidentally heard her talking in the bedroom that night. I told her I didn't want to misunderstand, that I just wanted to hear from her own mouth what was going on. I was mentally prepared for all kinds of reactions. Maybe she would deny it, or laugh and say that it was just drunken talk that wasn't worth worrying about. But what she said next made me completely collapse. She was silent for a moment, looked down at the coffee cup in her hand, then began to speak. Her words flowed out like a waterfall, and I could barely keep up. She admitted that she did have feelings for my fiancé, not just a passing feeling, but something that had been brewing for a long time. But what surprised me most was the way she talked about me. She launched into a long rant full of opinions I never thought I'd hear coming out of her mouth. Right-wing rants about not understanding why he chose a confused girl like me over someone like her. She said she thought he deserved someone better, that she couldn't accept him being with me, a transgender person. I sat there, dumbfounded, listening to her cry and talk, admitting that she herself was confused about her feelings. I don't know how to respond. I used to think she was my most supportive person. She was the first person I confided in when I struggled with my identity, used to hug me and tell me I didn't need to be afraid. But now, the person sitting in front of me seemed to be a completely different person. I wanted to scream, wanted to ask her why she changed like that, but my throat was choked. In the end, I could only say one short sentence. I'm done. Then I stood up and left, my steps as heavy as lead. I didn't turn around, although I heard her call my name once before her voice faded into the distance. When I got in the car, my fiancé immediately realized something was wrong. I burst into tears, telling everything in sobs, and he just hugged me tightly, letting me pour everything out. I'm still recovering from that conversation, and honestly, I don't want to repeat it too much. It's too painful to think about. After returning home, I discovered that she had started telling the story to my parents. She was living with them while looking for a new job in the area, and it seemed like she wanted to drag them into the problem line. My parents, as always, chose to stay out. They didn't want to get involved in family drama, and I completely understood that. I tried texting her, telling her to stop bothering them, that we could handle this ourselves, but she blocked me right after. I guess that was the end of all communication efforts on my part. My fiancé is now determined to cut her out of the wedding completely. He said he didn't want anyone to bring such negative energy to our big day, and I agreed, even though my heart was still heavy. I lean on him like a pillar right now, letting him keep me steady when I feel like I'm about to collapse. I wish things could end happier, that I could tell everyone a lighter ending. But the reality is that I'm still confused, still don't know what to do next. I thank all the advice everyone gave me. They gave me the courage to face her, even though the results were not what I expected. And if anyone has any suggestions on how to handle this new mess, I'd be happy to listen. I wonder if there is any way to approach her again, or should I let go completely?